What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. So, as I promised, today is mock draft day. The NFL draft is in less than 2 weeks. It is 2 weeks from yesterday, 13 days away. So, my final NFL mock draft is going to be revealed right now. So, let's get started. So, the first overall pick, the Chicago Bears are on the clock. They're going to be selecting Caleb Williams, quarterback at USC. Look. By now, you should know how I feel about Caleb Williams. I don't think he's a good quarterback in the NFL. He's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. I think he's got major bust written all over him. I do. But this is the direction the Bears want to go. When you do these mock drafts, you got to do what you think is going to happen, maybe not what you think should happen. Like, what I think should happen, the Bears should either draft Drake May or Jaden Daniels, draft Marvin Harrison, or trade down. Get a bunch of extra draft picks, maybe another good player. I mean, last year, they, Carolina really wanted Bryce Young, so they traded down 8 spots, and they got 2 future firsts, which including the first pick in this year's draft. They got 2 second-round picks, and they got DJ Moore, no per wide receiver. They probably could have gotten, maybe 2 1s and a 2, maybe, for Caleb Williams, if someone trade up and get Caleb Williams. But, he's going to go 1. The Bears made it very obvious. I think he's got a lot of character concerns. Also, I really don't think people say, oh, yeah, he's generational talent, but he's got character problems. Also, a lot of things he did in college, he can't really do in the NFL. Actually, Ryan Leaf made this point on a podcast that he went on. Obviously, Ryan Leaf is well known as maybe the biggest bust in NFL history, but he's gotten his life together recently. And he's gone into sports broadcasting, and he appeared on some podcast, and he actually made a good point. Like, hey, you see all these pretty, off-platform throws. Like, unless you're Mahomes, you're not doing that in the NFL. And this is what he does all the time. It's not like he does it once in a while, or he does it at his pro day or something. Like, he does it all the time in the game. You're not gonna be able to do that in the NFL unless you're Patrick Mahomes. Which he's not. So even like his ceiling, I think, is kind of capped to maybe a Dak Prescott or something. So I think the Bears making a big mistake, but Caleb Williams will be the first pick in the draft. Up second is the Washington Commanders. They have a second overall pick in the NFL draft. They'll be taking Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU. Look, him and May, to me, are neck and neck for quarterback 1 and 2. I have a slight edge. I'm giving a slight edge to Drake May. Though I do like Daniels a lot. I think May's a little safer. But Daniels has as high a floor, if not as high of a ceiling, if not a higher ceiling. But it seems this is the guy that Washington wants. I think it was his pro day at the Combine. Brian Kelly, of course, Jay Daniels' coach the last 2 years at LSU. They're asking him about Jay Daniels. He basically said, the Commanders are going to take him, so we kind of spoiled a little surprise, if he was a surprise at that point. Seems like that's who Washington wants, so he will be going second overall to the Commanders. I like Jaden Daniels. I think he's got a really good arm. He can move really, really well, make a lot of good plays with his legs. I think he might struggle at first, because he didn't really play an NFL-ready offense. Definitely didn't play one at Iowa State, and LSU was closer, but still wasn't quite an NFL offense that they run. So, and if he works out, he could be a superstar. He could be like Lamar Jackson with a better arm. Like, he's got a chance to be great. But his floor is pretty low. He could also be a disaster. Like, he could be like RG3 2.0, and now we got people saying he's got some elbow concerns now. But I do like him a lot. And that's who Washington is going to pick second overall. But the third overall pick is the New England Patriots. They're going to take Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. He's very good. He's got a very strong arm. He's decently accurate. He can run a little bit. He's very tough. He's very tough. He's got a pretty safe floor. I don't think his floor is that low. He's probably, of all the quarterbacks, probably has the highest floor and probably the second or third highest ceiling. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback. He kind of reminds me of like a Josh Allen, but with a little better decision making. You know, going a little further back, maybe like a Ben Roethlisberger. So I think he's gonna be a really good quarterback. He's probably the most NFL ready out of all the quarterbacks. You know, I know North Carolina quarterback tree hasn't really worked out. Mr. Trubisky was a major bust. You know, Sam Howell, so far we're not really sure yet. But I like him a lot. I don't think it's fair to judge guys based off, when it comes to quarterback, based off where they went to school. Like, Texas Tech, the only quarterback they produce, Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't mean there's this quarterback factor. They just have one guy who happens to be great. You know, obviously, like, USC is a different story, right? Because they've had a bunch of guys that have been absolutely terrible. Outside of Carson Palmer, who was a good quarterback. Everyone else has not been good. Like, I guess, Alabama hasn't produced. Obviously, Mac Jones wasn't good. Hurts, we thought was great in the last year's show. Maybe he might not be so great. Tua, to me, is overrated. Not horrible, but he's not great. You have to go back to Joe Namath to find a good quarterback come out of Alabama. That was back in the 60s. Like, for example, Ohio State before C.J. Stroud hadn't put out anything good. Cardale Jones was a 7th-round pick. Was in the league for 3 years. He was a third string. Maybe threw a couple of passes. Dwayne Haskins, God rest his soul, but he wasn't good. He wasn't a good quarterback. Who else come out? Nobody's out coming out there good. And then Stroud came out. Justin Fields to this point hasn't really worked out. And then Stroud came out, and he was great. But that's one great quarterback. So I don't think it's fair to look at UNC had 1 or 2 not so great quarterbacks. So Drake May's gonna be bad. But if May comes out and he busts out, now we have to start talking about, all right, maybe stay away from UNC quarterbacks. But I don't think we're at that point quite yet. So Drake May, 3rd overall to the New England Patriots. 4th overall, the Arizona Cardinals. I haven't taken Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State. This should be a no-brainer. I wonder if this could happen, maybe a trade here. I've heard maybe the Vikings moving up and taking J.J. McCarthy. First of all, don't trade up that far to take J.J. McCarthy. But they really need a quarterback because they signed Sam Darnold only for a year. It was for $10 million, so it's not a lot of money for a starting quarterback. He hasn't proven that he can be a surefire starter in this league, and this is going to be his 7th season in the league. As long as his 4th team. Obviously, Jaron Hall is not the guy. I think he's still there, so maybe. But I just think, first of all, you're getting a generational talent in Marvin Harrison. He is definitely the best receiver in this draft. I heard people put Malik Neighbors ahead of him. I love Malik Neighbors. He's going to be a stud as well, but he's probably faster than Marvin Harrison, but Harrison I would say, has got better hands and is a better route runner than Neighbors. So I think it's 1A, 1B, but I think Harrison is clearly the better receiver. He is absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, his father is a Hall of Famer for the Colts, Marvin Harrison Sr., one of the all-time great receivers, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is following in his footsteps. He's an absolute superstar. He could have come out last year if he wanted to. Would have been the first guy taken. He would have easily been the first-round pick and taken pretty high. I think he's the best player in this draft, but the way the draft falls, first 3 teams, really need quarterbacks. So he goes 4th to the Arizona Cardinals. Get him a big weapon for Kyler Murray. 5th overall, the Los Angeles Chargers. I have them taking Malik Neighbors, receiver out of LSU. Like I said, he's great. He's a star receiver, extremely fast. He's really, really good. Chargers lost a lot of talent at wide receiver. They traded Keenan Allen to the Bears, and they let go of Mike Williams. So they really need a receiver. The receiver right now is Quentin Johnson, who had a really rough rookie season. We don't know how much better he's going to be. They also lost Austin Eckler. You swapped him out with Gus Edwards. So you have a great quarterback in Justin Herbert. Now you have a really good offensive-minded head coach in Jim Harbaugh. Of course, has proven that he can win at the NFL level. And, of course, he's won that national championship at Michigan. And now you get yourself a star receiver in Malik Neighbors. 6th overall, the New York Giants. I think they're going to take J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan. I don't love McCarthy. He's just never been asked to do anything. And now when it comes to the NFL, and he's going to be asked to do things he wasn't ever asked to do at all in his tenure at Michigan, I think he's going to struggle. Now, he's a guy, if he were to go somewhere in a really good system where he can sit behind a really good veteran quarterback for a year or two, I'm like, okay, he might be able to become something solid. But he's going with the Giants. Like, I like Dable a lot. I think he's a nice offensive mind. I don't think last year's regression was on him. At least not fully. At least for the most part, wasn't on him. You know, you got Daniel Jones there, who it's his last year with the Giants. They want to get rid of him, just they can't really financially. I mean, they're done with him. Joe Schoen didn't draft him. Dable was not the coach when he was drafted. Clearly, they're done with him. You know, the rest of the room. Drew Lock is not a starter. I don't think Tom DeVito isn't a starter. Like, it's just like Jones apparently is a star once he comes back from the injury. I'm not sure if he'll miss the start of the year with the torn ACL he had in the middle of the season. So like this is not the situation I want for him. I don't love it for him. Also, the Giants, that offensive line is still horrible. I know like they saw one or two guys in the sign. What was it? John Running from Green Bay. They may have signed somebody else as well. But the O-line still isn't great. Their wide receiver room is absolutely horrible. Like, who's your best receiver right now? Is it Darius Slayton? Maybe? Like, the receiver room was horrible. You lose Saquon as a top back, obviously. You know, you have Devin Singletary, who played pretty well for Houston down the stretch last year, but certainly it's not Saquon Barkley. You know, that offense is going to be pitiful. McCarthy does not help them at all right now. But I just think they're so done with Daniel Jones. I think this might be Daniel Jones all over again. You know, a team that just kind of desperate. You know, 4 or 5 years ago, you had Eli Manning, but he was kind of on a big contract. Was clearly declining towards the end. At the end of his career, it didn't really have a future plan. So like, let's take this Daniel Jones could have a Duke. And they started him by week 3. Jones was a starter, and just like that, and then 4 or 5 years later, obviously hasn't worked. And I think, now you have Daniel Jones, who hasn't really worked out, but he's on this big contract that they shouldn't have given him, and so they're stuck with him for at least another year. But they don't have a future plan, so they're gonna panic and take this kid JJ McCarthy out of Michigan, and I think it'll be basically the same thing. I don't have much confidence, but I think that's the direction Giants are going to go. Some overall, but Tennessee Titans. I have them taking Joe Alt, offensive tackle, out of Notre Dame. I think he's the best tackle in its class. He's really, really good. Notre Dame seems to produce a very, very good offensive lineman. Quentin Nelson's an all-pro guard for the Colts, one of the best in the entire league. We went to Notre Dame. They've produced good offensive linemen in Notre Dame. I think Joe Alt will be no different. He's really, really good. Titans are trying to, prior to last year, they basically, completely, just rebooted the offensive line. They cut Ben Jones. They let go Taylor Lewan. They just completely just tore apart the O-line. You started rebuilding it last year by taking Pierre Skoronski in the first round. He's obviously a guard. And then you continue to retool the offensive line with Joe Alt. Of course, they just hired Bill Callahan as their offensive line coach, one of the greatest offensive line coaches ever. Of course, Brian Callahan is his son, so he called up his dad to come coach the O-line. I think he'll help Alt and Skoronski to really good young offensive lineman. Skoronski, a first rounder last year. Alt will be the first rounder this year, obviously. A lot. So, Joe Alt to the Tennessee Titans. Number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. I am taking Roma Dunze, wide receiver, out of Washington. I think he's really good. I've heard some people try and put him ahead of Neighbors, even in the same category as Marver. I don't think that is accurate, but I think he is the clear wide receiver 3 in this class. He's very, very good. And, look at Atlanta. Obviously, you signed Kirk Cousins. It was clear this team was a quarterback away from at least being the best team in the NFC South. Maybe not a Super Bowl, but the best team in the NFC South by a pretty decent margin by signing Kirk Cousins. And, they probably use one more receiver. I like Drake London. I like Kyle Pitts. Obviously, Bijan Robinson got a chance to be really, really good. The rest of our team is pretty solid. Now you're going to have another good young receiver in Roma Dunze. Now against Kirk Cousins, a solid set of weapons to work with. They got a pretty good defense. He should have some pretty good protection. So Roma Dunze will be an Atlanta Falcon. 9th overall, the Chicago Bears. Of course, this is their actual pick. The first pick, of course, was Carolina's pick. I'm sure they're thanking Carolina by now for that trade. But I have taken Oli Fashanu off the tackle out of Penn State. I have been going 9th overall to the Chicago Bears. Look, the Bears had a phenomenal offseason. You bring in Keenan Allen, another star receiver for whoever the quarterback's going to be. Obviously, it's going to be Caleb Williams. You sent a good back in DeAndre Swift. You had a good offseason. You made a lot of nice moves. Again, I don't think it's going to matter because I think they have a man-child of Caleb Williams as their quarterback. But, that being said, offensive line's been a major concern for years. There's a few teams in the NFL that just refuse to address their offensive line. I don't understand why. But it doesn't work. All teams are horrible. Like the New York Jets, like the New York Giants, like the Chicago Bears. I don't get it. But now you help address that. I know they tried to address that last year. You took John Wright 10th overall last year. It was not great as a rookie, but obviously he's still young. Now you go on the other side of things with the left tackle in Olivia Fashanu at Penn State. 10th overall, the New York Jets. I haven't taken Tyus Fogg out of Oregon State. This could be a spot for Brock Bowers to start trying to have a Georgia, who is definitely one of the 5 best players in this class. 5 best players in this class. But the way the draft is ordered, he's going to drop a little bit. If you're the Jets, look. Obviously got Aaron Rodgers. We obviously know what he can do, but he's 40 years old. Coming off a torn Achilles. They tried to revamp their line for agency. You signed Tyron Smith for a year. You brought in John Simpson. You make the move for Morgan Moses. So you brought in a couple of guys. On paper, if the line is healthy, it's a pretty good offensive line. They obviously have a lot of other pieces in place with the weapons they have. Obviously what they got on defense. But they're still, to me, an injury or two away from being in the same spot they were last year. Almost the Jets, what can go wrong will go wrong. So they're an injury or two away from their O-line being within the spot it was last year. By week 8, 3 stars will be out and under reserve. So, also, obviously you got to go all in this year for Aaron Rodgers. You don't know if he's going to play past this year. No, you haven't been to the playoffs since 2010. To put that in perspective, in 2010, I was 8 years old. That puts me, I think, in 3rd grade. I'm graduating college in about a month. So I have done all that in the time the Jets have not gone to the playoffs. So obviously you gotta go all in. That being said, once Aaron Rodgers leaves, you're gonna fall at the face of the earth. You have to have, at least as they're currently constructed, you have to somewhat kind of try and plan for life after Aaron Rodgers. Especially considering you have to clear the possibility that they go 8-9 this year, and then you are screwed. If that happens, you losing the first one might be screwed as well, but either way, you'll be screwed. So take Fuaga. You have Tyron Smith there at left tackle. He's 33, 34 years old. Still not a pro caliber guy, but he's 33, 34 years old. He's on a 1-year deal. He's been injured for the last couple of years. Fuaga, can be a guy who, he can learn from Smith this year. He can step in next year. Smith gets hurt. Maybe he slides in. Combination of, let's see what this kid can do. And, he's also going to be the next man up if Smith gets hurt. You got to have depth. So I think it's the pick. You got to address the offensive line. It's been a problem for years for the New York Jets, and I think they can, continue to address that here in the draft. At 11th overall, you have the Minnesota Vikings. I am taking Michael Penix, quarterback out of Washington. Look, his medicals are concerning. They are. He's had 3 seasons in the injuries in 5 years in college. That's a major problem. That is. But this year, he was phenomenal. He has got a great arm. His arm is incredible. And, he can make some plays with his legs. He had a phenomenal year in Washington, was a Heisman finalist for a reason. Again, I don't love the fact that he might start right away because the other quarterback in Minnesota is Sam Darnold. I don't love that. I love the Vikings up the line isn't great. And I'm not sure if he's a franchise guy, but I think he's a good quarterback. And the Vikings, they need the quarterback. Obviously, you lose Kirk Cousins. So, the only thing you did was bring in Sam Darnold. So, you kind of got to go quarterback here. So, Penix, I think if he works out, he can be very good. And I think he needs some weapons around him. But good news, he does have that with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and T.J. Hockenson already in place in Minnesota. So, Michael Penix, 11th overall out of Washington, to the Minnesota Vikings. 12th overall, the Denver Broncos. I am taking Bo Nix out of Oregon, quarterback. Denver's a dumpster fire. They're a mess. Obviously, you get rid of Russell Wilson. You're paying him $35 million to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're a mess with Sean Payton and company over there. They got nothing to work with. I mean, your quarterback right now was Jarrett Stidham. yeah, that does not inspire a lot of confidence, obviously. So what do? You draft Bo Nix. Look, Nix is 25 years old. That's gonna hurt him. He's been on what 4 different colleges, but had a phenomenal year this past year at Oregon. The year before was at Rice or somewhere like that, and was very good. Yeah, I don't think he's a franchise guy, but I think he could be a solid starter. He's better than what Broncos are throwing out there. Again, don't know if he's ready to start now. The age thing is a little worrisome, but I think their chance to be very, very solid. He's not. I think he's a good fit in Peyton's offense. Obviously, the guy who's ran Peyton's offense the best over the years is Drew Brees. Brees was, guy who was a little smaller, but big arm, pocket passer. They always had really good offensive lines. They had really good guards because he's a shorter quarterback. Denver in the line there isn't great, but he kind of fits the kind of quarterback that works the best in Peyton's system, at least what we've seen so far. I think Sean Payton's overrated, as you guys know, but for what we've seen for quarterbacks to run that have ran his system, Nix is what you're looking for. It just all depends now on how everything around him comes into place and just how good he is this kid, obviously. So, but Bo Nix to the Denver Broncos. 13th overall, the Las Vegas Raiders. I think taking Cooper DeJean, corner out of Iowa. I like this kid a lot. By the way, he would be the first white corner taken in the first round in a very long time. The last white corner I think has started the game was Jason Sear in 2002. So it's very hilarious fact there. But I do like this kid a lot. I know he's coming off a major injury, but if he's healthy, I think he's got to be a very good corner. I know a lot of people thought maybe the Raiders would take quarterback. Obviously, you have Aiden O'Connell there. You drafted in the 4th round last year. He played a good amount last year. It was kind of okay. I thought his first part of the game, I thought he wasn't great. I thought, yeah, this guy isn't any good. He finished decently strong. Still not sold on him by any means, but he, Pierce likes him. He says he earned the right to compete for the job. You have Gardner Minshew there. He's obviously a phenomenal backup. He's a phenomenal backup, good fill-in. Not really isn't a good starter, but obviously he started most of the year in Indianapolis last year because Richardson got hurt. I thought he was serviceable-ish. But, he's going to compete with O'Connell for the job. They're going to roll with that. So, I've heard the Raiders are more focused on other areas than not at quarterback. Plus, there isn't a quarterback you're worth taking anyway. After the big, 5 or 6 guys in the first, they're going in the first round here. It's a major drop off. We might not see another quarterback taken to the 4th or the 5th round after the first 12 picks, which I have all the quarterbacks going, the big quarterbacks going. So I look at the Raiders. They have a lot of young pieces on defense that they've drafted recently. Corner to me is their biggest hole. You could say look at the defensive line, but you got Max Crosby there. You drafted Tyree Wilson last year. They signed somebody else Christian Wilkins. You gave a big contract this year. So you kind of short out that in free agency. Now they address the secondary with Cooper DeJean. 14th overall, the New Orleans Saints. I have them taking Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. His slide stops. Look, this would be the best value of the entire round. Bowers, one of the 5 best players in the draft. Probably won't go higher than 10 because of the way the draft falls. But I don't even mind the Jets took him. I haven't taken the offensive line because I think that's something they really, really need to address. But he's a phenomenal tight end. He's one of the highest graded tight ends that any of the analysts have ever graded for sure. He's going to be a great player. The Saints, look, they're a mess. They are as mediocre as it gets. They've been $80 million over the cap for what seems like 15 years. They're not going to be that great. Why Dennis Allen's still there, I have no idea. The regime there is not going to work. They need a lot of different things, but tight end, it is one of them. Taysom Hill's kind of a tight end. But Bowers is a stud. He'll make them better. I don't think anything is saving this team. They should absolutely tear it down, to be honest. But barriers to the Saints at 14th overall. 15th overall, the Indianapolis Colts. Going with Quinyon Mitchell, corner out of Toledo. I like this kid a lot. Very talented corner. Look at Indianapolis. Obviously, you don't need the quarterback there. Anthony Richardson, the quarterback here would take. You know, you could say maybe go receiver here. You know, you have Pittman there, but, you know, I don't hate Alec Pierce. Also, Josh Downs drafted last year. He was pretty good as a rookie. So I don't think it's a huge need. I look at my secondary. Could use a little bit of help. So, Quinyon Mitchell, corner out of Toledo. 16th overall, the Seattle Seahawks. Going with Latu, edge rusher out of Seattle. I think they got to go edge here. I know that they lost a couple of pieces in the secondary, but you still have two really good corners, and Devin Witherspoon, who's phenomenal, as well as Tariq Woolen. You know, you brought back Leonard Williams, which will help you on the inside, on the interior of a defensive line, but come off the edge, there isn't a whole lot. They haven't had a really good edge rusher in a while. Obviously, you got a new defensive line head coach in Mike McDonald. So, you get him an edge rusher in Latu. You know, some people have some concerns with him, and then, you know, with the size, but this guy's really fast. He's an athletic freak. He's really, really good. I think in the right system could be really good. I like him in Seattle. Latu to the Seattle Seahawks. 17th overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have been taking Jazar Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois. I think he's probably the best interior D lineman in this draft. He's very good. You know, he's great against the run, can push the pocket to an extent. Jacksonville needs help on that side of the ball, and they added a couple of guys. Yeah, obviously, you revamped the defensive staff. You let go of a couple of guys in the secondary. You brought in a couple of guys, but definitely that D-line needs a lot of help, and they get it in the form of Jazar Newton. By the way, there's no trades in this draft. I tried doing it last year, doing a bunch of trades, didn't work out, so I decided I'm not going to do trades. It gets too messy. 18th overall, Cincinnati Bengals. I am taking Troy Fautanu, O-tackle out of Washington. I can see why you want to go receiver here with them possibly trading Mike T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd is still a free agent. Behind Jamar Chase, also the depth isn't as sufficient. But you never know. Maybe they figure out with T. Higgins. They could re-sign Tyler Boyd, which I think may happen at this point since no one is picking him up. He might just fall back into their lap. Especially since now they're going to trade away Higgins, which is something I think is very possible. O-line's been a concern for years for the Bengals. Obviously, Joe Burrow's had 2 major injuries in 4 or 5 years. His rookie year, he had 2 ACL. His past year, he had the broken wrist. He's a superstar. He's the second best quarterback in the NFL. A stud. You got to keep him healthy. You want an injury lock situation. And you got to address the offensive line. Last year you brought in Orlando Brown and just the left side. Now you just the right side with Troy Fautanu, O-tackle out of Washington. 19th overall, the Los Angeles Rams. I've been taking Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle out of Texas. Look, losing Aaron Donald was an enormous loss, put a big dent in what they're going to do this year. Obviously one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time. I think they're going to look for his replacement. He won't be Aaron Donald 2.0. No one's going to do that, but he'll help kind of fill that hole to an extent. There's right now a giant hole in the middle of their defense. They can at least fill that hole with Byron Murphy, who I do think is very good. Again, it's not fair to say, if he's not Aaron Donald, that's not good enough, but that's not fair. But I do think he's going to be very good, and he fills a major need. It's a great player. Byron Murphy to Los Angeles Rams. 20th overall, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've been taking J.C. Latham off the tackle out of Alabama. Look, obviously Pittsburgh, they made the move to revamp the quarterback room, sending Kenny Pickett off to Philly. Obviously, you let go of Mason Rudolph, and you brought in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but we will find out. O-line's a major concern. You draft Latham. You drafted Bernard Jones last year. Wasn't great as a rookie, but they had him playing on the right side for a bunch. He's not a right tackle. With this move, you can officially say he is the left tackle. They haven't been smart with the moves with the offensive line. Trading away Kevin Dotson last year for nothing didn't make any sense. I don't think they should have let go Chimuka Okorafor. I would have probably kept him. But you drafted Jones last year. Now you draft Lathan Missy. You signed some while last year. O-line starting to come together for years. It's been a problem. Obviously, for a while they had a great O-line. Then guys, Marquise Pouncey retired, and David DeCastro retired. Alejandro Villanueva retired. The O-line got old, and they all kind of retired around the same time. So they've kind of been trying to build their O-line from the ground up, and they've had some trouble doing it. But and like I said, they've made some mistakes. Trading Kevin Dotson among them. Drafting Kendrick Green over Creed Murphy a couple of years ago was a big mistake. So Latham to the Steelers. I think he'll be a solid tackle in this league for a while. 21st overall, the Miami Dolphins. I've been taking Terrion Arnold, corner out of Alabama. I like him a lot. I think he's a very good corner. Dolphins lost Xavier Howard. You let him go in free agency. So you have your number 2 corner spot is open. Arnold can fill that. This is a really good pick for the Miami Dolphins. Terrion Arnold to the Miami Dolphins. 22nd overall, the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going with Nate Wiggins, corner out of Clemson. Well, the Eagles' secondary was a dumpster fire last year. Darius Slay looked washed. Bradbury was horrible. They're both still there because they're both on big contracts. This team is built very oddly, the Philadelphia Eagles. But they need some youth in that secondary, and they're going to get it with Wiggins. He's really, really fast. I think he's a bit of a project. But I think he's got his ceiling. I think is pretty high. I think he's got a chance to be very good. He's very fast, if nothing else. Nate Wiggins to the Philadelphia Eagles. 23rd overall was Minnesota Vikings. Weird trip with the Texans when they swapped draft picks to get an extra first. So they have a 23rd pick. And I am taking Dallas Turner, edge rusher out of Alabama. I think he's a very solid pass rusher, Dallas Turner. Vikings have a holder. You lose to Daniil Hunter in free agency. The defense was awful last year. Didn't really do anything to improve it because they didn't have the money. Haven't in quite a few years now. But Dallas Turner, I think, will help fill the hole that Daniil Hunter left because he had a big year last year. He's a very, very good edge rusher now in Houston. Dallas Turner to the Minnesota Vikings. At 24th overall, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys selecting Amarius Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Look, Dallas had a brutal offseason. Jerry Jones said we're going all in, and then went back to bed and let everybody walk in free agency. So they lost a lot. A couple different ways you can go. They lost their left tackle Tyron Smith, who was there for a long time. So they need to find his heir apparent like they do in this draft with Amarius Mims. Gotta keep that healthy, especially him going into a contract year. 25th overall, the Green Bay Packers. I am taking Graham Barton, offensive guard out of Duke. But when PFF has him listed as a tackle, he's not. He's a guard. Playing him at tackle, he'll be out of the league in 3 years. You'll be what you saw out of Evan Neal with the Giants the last couple of years. Just little disclaimer. The Packers got a nice young squad, but the 2 areas they really need to improve in is offensive line and their secondary. I think Jeff Hafley, who I didn't think was the best hire they could have made for their new defensive coordinator, but the good news is their secondary has struggled a lot, and he specializes in working with DBs. He was a DB coach in the NFL before he was head coach at Boston College. But O-line also, it's got to be better. You got to protect Jordan Love. You got a good young quarterback like that. You got to protect him. So, guards is a major hole. You have Elton Jenkins there, guy who can kind of play wherever you need him. He's great. You got a good center in Josh Myers, who you drafted a couple of years ago. But also, Graham Barton helps you solidify the interior if you want. Maybe you slide Jenkins outside. That gives him some versatility. Graham Barton to the Packers. 26th overall, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I haven't taken Jackson Powers Johnson, center. I have Oregon. This kid's really, really, really good. I watched him a bunch last year. I like him a lot. Center's probably the safest position you could take in the first round. Most of the time, at the very least, they will sign a second contract. So most of the time, if you get a quality center in the first round, you should have them for at least 7 or 8 years. 100%, now they could bust out in 3 years. They could leave it there 4 or 5 years. Centers are pretty safe. This kid's very, very good. Tampa needs a new center with Ryan Jensen retiring, and they find it with Jackson Powers Johnson. 27th overall, the Arizona Cardinals. I've been taking Jared Verse, edge rusher out of Florida State. Verse could end up being a big steal. I like him a lot. He's a really good speed rusher. What's going to knock him is his size. He's undersized for his positions. A couple of guys like that. Actually, Latu. Of course, I have to go to Seattle. Chop Robinson, who I don't even have going in the round. He'll be early second round pick, who possibly could slide to the back end of the first round. But I like him a lot. He's very fast. He's really athletic. He honestly, I hate lazy comparisons, but he screams Jermaine Johnson. Obviously, same position, same school, kind of similar intangible, so it's a lazy comparison. But I think they are similar players. I think what Jermaine Johnson could end up becoming with the Jets is what I think Jared Verse's potential is as well. He's very good. Arizona gets themselves a very good pass rusher with Jared Verse. 28th overall is the Buffalo Bills. I'm taking Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. It actually works out. Obviously, the Bills receiver room is concerning. After you trade away Stephon Diggs, obviously, very recently, you let Gabe Davis walk in for agency. So the receiver room leaves a lot to be desired. You bring in Brian Thomas, who I do think could be a solid number one receiver. Obviously, he was a 2 at LSU because he was behind Malik Neighbors, who's an incredible talent. So he doesn't have the best hands in the world, so something needs to work on, but it's something that you can work on. I think he's a very good receiver. The Bills need a receiver desperately, and they find one with Brian Thomas. 29th overall, I have the Detroit Lions. So I can Kool-Aid McKinstry, corner out of Alabama. Look, honestly, I'm not a fan of Kool-Aid. I don't think he's that great. If it wasn't for his name, I don't think we'd be talking about it. I know we've been talking about it for a couple of years now because of his name. Wasn't for his name, I don't think we know half as much as what we do about him. But, he goes to Detroit, with Aaron Glenn, who's a good, tough-minded coach there, coaching the defense. Secondary's been a major problem in Detroit the last couple of years. And it's another young DB for them to evaluate. So cool McKinstry to the Detroit Lions. 32th overall, the Baltimore Ravens. I've been taking a Donnie Mitchell receiver out of Texas. I thought about maybe going off at the line, and then I lost a couple of starters, and Lamar Jackson, I think, said something to the GM saying he wants him to address it. But I think the main reason the Ravens haven't been able to get to a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson to this point has been they haven't really had a legit number 2 receiver. They had Hollywood Brown for a while, and now that you have Zay Flowers, who I think they struck gold with. He's a great player. Don't have a true number 2 right now. It ain't Rashad Bateman. I think they find that here with Donnie Mitchell at attack point, who I think is a very solid receiver. It's got very good speed as well. 31st overall, the San Francisco 49ers. I'm taking Tyler Guyton off the tackle out of Oklahoma. Look, obviously, the Niners have everything you could want. Obviously, the Super Bowl has kind of eluded them last few years. O-line, I thought, really struggled in that Super Bowl. It was kind of exposed. You have Troy Williams, who's a dog at left tackle, but he's getting older. Right tackle is kind of a weakness there, and Guyton, I think he'll be your right tackle this year, and maybe in a couple of years when Trent Williams retires, he'll slide over. Carrick out of Alabama to the Niners. And to finish it off, 32nd overall, the Kansas City Chiefs. I've been taking Ladd McConkey, receiver out of Georgia. Look, Chiefs, obviously, their receiver was pretty bad last year, to be honest. As for Rashee Rice, everybody else did not do enough. Was not pulling their weight. But they will still win Super Bowl because Pat Mahomes and the company are great. Obviously, Rashee Rice, he just turned himself into the authorities. We don't know what's going to happen with him, how long he'll be suspended, if we even see him this year at all, ever. His career almost suddenly is in jeopardy. I still have Hollywood Brown you signed, who's a nice little speed threat. You're back to, that same, Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman group. So, receivers once again a big hole. I like Ladd McConkey. He'll either go to the very end of the first round or early second round. I like this kid out of Georgia, the nice little slot guy. Chiefs levels like the small, speed slot guys, Tyreek Hill. They drafted Rashee Rice last year. You already just brought the Hollywood Brown. They love those kind of guys, and they find another one with Vlad McConkey. All right, that's my mock draft. That's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.